Yeah, good evening, everybody. I want to tell you an exciting story about what we have going on at Lightsense. It's an advanced infrared sensor technology company. Now, why are we any different? Infrared's been a long time. We've miniaturized it. We've made it very low power, get down to very low concentration of chemicals. And there's one advantage infrared has over anything else. Every chemical compound known to man has a unique infrared fingerprint. And that allows us to take these business opportunities into a lot of different spaces. Let's see what I do to, okay. So I'm gonna talk about medical diagnostics, and then I'm gonna talk about energy efficiency. And this picture up here depicts an opportunity we all have. We're all worried about our health or our family's health. And there's very difficult type of diagnoses that have to be done under the current situation. What we can do with infrared, we can define biomarkers that are tied directly into disease manifestations. And so if you look at the top box, that would be the infrared signature of someone who's healthy. If you look at the lower box, that would be the infrared signature for someone who suffered from some form of disease. The whole key here, small form factor, low power, is getting down to very low concentrations of chemicals and being able to identify them with a lot of credibility. So, are we disrupting things, or will we be? Let's talk through this a little bit. Up top is the current way of diagnosing medical issues. You go to the doctor, you take urine and blood samples, she sends them off to the laboratory. 2 weeks later, you might get a call, come on in, we need to talk about it, and there might be some further tests. It's a very expensive, very inefficient process. But can we do better than that? Well, within a year or so after funding, we will have a portable infrared unit that any doctor could have, any clinic could have, that will allow point of care right there in the office. You breathe into the unit, press a button, and the infrared readout will show up right there. So at these top commitments there, these labs spend millions of dollars for this equipment. The price point for our initial first gen is somewhere over $1,000 or $2,000. When we get to this handheld breathalyzer, we think we can get it down to 250 bucks. It's going to destroy the laboratory industry as we know it over time. Now, who are we? Well, we're a bunch of seasoned entrepreneurs with, between Dr. Scott Heim, the founder, and Dr. Kost, well over 100 patents to their name. They're some of the world's best in infrastructure and infrared. We have key collaborators from Intel and from other industry sources. Very seasoned people, we've been around the block. This is not our first startup, we know the drill. Now our market strategy, and this is I'm going to transition now into energy. We have near-term revenues. The infrared chip we make, the miniaturized version, that has an OEM play to it. So there's other people, some Chinese groups want to start buying it from us. We've got a Swiss group that wants to license it. So we have the ability to start generating revenues right out of the gate. We think after the first year of post-funding, it should be about $1 million. So I want to talk to you about energy efficiency. Right now, and Randy is talking about it, and Will, you're talking about it, 40% of any building's energy usage is tied to HVAC. And most buildings blow in air indiscriminately. So there's no efficiency here that would lend us to be able to save money. We have developed CO2 sensors, carbon dioxide sensors, that can be placed in buildings. Again, they're small, they're low power, last for a year, 2 or 3 or 5 on 1 or 2 batteries. You can have the tied into the infrared type of a system. And so what happens here? If we put CO2 sensors, why CO2? They're a surrogate for the amount of occupancy in any given space. So if we have our system tied into the HVAC unit, it'll blow air where it's needed, it'll cut back on where it's not. We view that to be a $4 billion industry right now, and that we can cut the energy costs by 20 to 50% with a payback period of 1 year. So we're very excited about these applications. Where are we right now? Well, we've raised about $100,000 in friends and family. There's been a fair amount of self-funding between me and my partner. We've assembled a technology portfolio that goes back all the way 10 years. Our IP machine is unbelievable. So we're very happy about how we're going to make those things play out from a patent perspective. What we're looking for is $500,000 to a $1 million. Could be a convertible note, could be an equity play. We will start revenues within 4 to 6 months. We think at the end of the first year, we'll have $1 million in revenues with pretty significant margins. So that's our play: infrared, medical, infrared, energy efficiency. We got some of the top talent on the planet, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
I was told to go easy on another Duke alum, so we'll do that. Talk to us a little bit about the competitive landscape. Who do you see as your competitors as you enter these markets?
Yeah, the competition is interesting. It's going to be some direct competition, some partnering competition. The infrared MEMS, miniaturized version with low power. There are several companies, one group in Russia, one group that is in Finland that we're actually going to partner with. There's a couple groups out here in the Arizona, the Intel area there. But what we don't see, well, we're going to definitely have competition. There's no doubt about that. But we're pretty far advanced compared to some of the other folks, just because our technology people have been working on this for a fair amount of time. We don't see yet, although Intel might say it a little bit differently, where we see a big Fortune 500 company into this, but they might. But we have that core emitter chip that everyone's going to need. So we might be selling to a competitor in some respects, or using their technology in our world as well.
Just a little bit more on your revenue model and how do you want to you reach the market. I saw also in your website that you focus on maybe on retrofit buildings. This is the low-hanging fruit. So what will be the next step?
Yeah, okay, it's a good question. Our carbon dioxide sensors, which is what control the HVAC units, they're ready to go. We'll have the production ramped up pretty quickly. So we'll be selling our sensors to other groups that are doing some of these retrofits. Just as an aside on that, from the current way of dealing with CO2 sensors and infrared makes it very difficult for many people to afford retrofitting the buildings themselves. The current technology is each unit sensor costs $2,000 to $3,000 installed. We're going to be over or under $200. It'll be wireless or through a point-to-point type of a deal. So when we go through it, if you go through the numbers again, 20 to 50% reduction in energy costs on HVAC, payback period of 1 year or less, and that these are such low power, you're not going to have a lot of maintenance. You can keep this thing running forever. Even on energy harvesting, a small solar panel will be enough to power these. Does that answer the question for me?
Do you also plan to collect the data or use use that as a big data to sell that information as well? Or
yeah, let me talk about that. That's a huge opportunity. And we're not focused on kind of making that a message yet. But if you look at, let's say you had a hospital system, had 30 hospitals. We had CO2 sensors in all these different rooms, and they're generating data every 6 minutes. The owners and operators then get a footprint of what's actually going on within that building. And if you can move this into a subscription basis, where the hospital just pays us every month to generate the data for them, that's one opportunity. But there will be a tremendous amount of infrared data in all these, we're talking about 7 or 8 different markets here. I just want to touch on 2, and I don't want to get carried away like we did it all. We can't. But the data analytics is a big play.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if you could talk quickly about customers. When you've gone out to the market and you've had conversations with potential customers, what have they said? What are they most excited about? What are their reservations?
Yeah, good question. On the medical diagnostics, we've been laying low a little bit until we got closer. And so we're talking now with some groups that are tied into the medical diagnostics field, principally in Britain and in Europe. They're very excited. Say we can bring this down to a $250 spectrometer unit. And they've never seen anything quite like this, but we don't want to overplay our hand. On the energy efficiency side, the big three are Johnson Controls, Siemens, and Honeywell. And big companies rarely are very good adopters of new technology. So we're continuing to talk to people. Part of what we're trying to do right now is to educate people about who we are, what we have. Because most people say, well, infrared's been around forever. Why are you guys new, right? The big dog is DOD. We've talked to the Navy, we talked to the Air Force about doing some pilots. They don't want to do wireless, so we can do point-to-point infrared. But they got 3 billion square foot of space under roof. In talking with them, I probably shouldn't have used this number because they didn't believe it. But we cracked the numbers. If we apply our CO2 systems in all of their buildings, we'll be saving them over $1 billion a year in energy costs. So we're talking to the big guys, we're talking to the small guys. We do not want to get out ahead of ourselves, okay? We want to make sure that people first are educated about the potentiality, and we take it from there.
So let me ask you a question about the exit. So how do I make money, or how does this audience make money? Let's say 10 of our audience members invest $25,000 in your company. You know, what's the return? Who buys the company? What's the timing? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. Potential buyers there's a number of them in different market sectors. But the way we've run the numbers, we look at a 4 to 5 year to exit, revenues of 45 to 50 million at 60 to 70%. And so people get in now, they're gonna have a very attractive package, and people make a hell of a lot of money. But that's what we're looking at right now. There's a longer term play, there's the ability to acquire new companies, there's the ability to set up different companies. So we're not looking for just money. We want some really smart people who can help us guide the development and the building of this company.
From a healthcare standpoint, any concerns about regulatory risks or approvals to do diagnostics?
Yeah, and we know we're gonna have to go through some FDA processes. We're not a pharmaceutical, so it's not gonna go through these series of testing. But one of the things we're focused at with our British partner and our Finnish partner, we think that the regulatory process is gonna be more efficient over in those countries than it will be here. So that's sort of how we're looking at it. We know we need to do both. But we're looking at Glyconics in Britain and the Finnish firm and collaborating with them. And they'll know the ropes in their host countries.